how a career choice would be made. So not more emphasis would be placed on what you really like, what you're really passionate about. And also because at that tender age, you're not exposed to the industry or you're not exposed to real life. And therefore, also your career choices tend to be based on what your family or what tends to look very glamorous in the society you tend to take up. Peer influence is another big one, which I see that if I want to be with my friend, I have a close group of friends, and I want to be with my friends even in college after the school ends. And therefore, I would take up whatever my friends are choosing. So relationships or peer pressure would be one of the factors which would influence. The other one is gender, and that's possibly breaking. I mean, we are seeing a lot of people breaking these gender stereotypes. But if you look at traditionally nursing profession, you will see predominantly women in the profession. Or if you look at engineers, it's mainly the male gender that predominates. So IT sector also, you'll find males uh, predominating. So certain professions being chosen by certain genders, again, based on uh, factors like how much of travel would be involved, how much of late night shifts would be involved, how much of work-life balance would the profession allow? Because traditionally, it is the families would say that women, would possibly get married and they would need to look after their family. Therefore, they should take up professions which are not very demanding, which possibly have a 9 to 5 job role. So again, teaching as a profession, we'll find teachers are more women as opposed to men, very few male teachers. Uh, but gradually we see those stereotypes are breaking. Some career choices are made based on finances. So if money is a factor that is driving your career choice, uh, and you want to make quick money, then you would look at professions which are likely to give you quick money. Uh, or you're coming from a lower socioeconomic background and money becomes an important determinant for your career choice. And therefore, you take up professions or programs that are likely to give you a stable job and a constant flow of money. Sometimes popularity of the course, as I said, medical profession is it has a certain status in the community, and or an MBA program for that matter, for coming from a B school, a reputed B school has a certain status in community, and therefore you are driven to a particular college because of its status in society and not because you really want to do it or not because you're passionate about it. And the fame and prestige that I spoke of, doctors, engineers are considered to be prestigious professions. Uh, Not that nursing does not give you that kind of a satisfaction, but it does not have that much of a prestige in our community. Not, and that's more so in Indian context as opposed to the Western world. So I've worked in Australia for 8 years, where these kind of hierarchies actually don't exist. In fact, nurses are more respected than doctors, and they're given equal status to doctors. So in the Indian context, there is a lot of weightage given to certain professions based on the prestige or fame it gives. So why should you not choose a career based on these factors is because you may choose this based on that, but if your passion, if your interest, if your aptitude, and if your personality does not match the attributes that are required to become that kind of a professional, then you will lose during the course of your academic journey itself, you will lose interest and you will not be able to achieve the success that you're looking for. Because key to any professional success is emotions. Again, I'm coming from a mental health profession background, so I know how much emotions play a role for you to become successful in your career. If you have passion within you for a particular field, no matter how many challenges, barriers you encounter through your professional journey, you will find ways to mitigate those, and you will find a way to become successful. So passion is key to choosing your professional career. So coming to how do you make that choice now that we have a lot of choices available? I mean, coming to 2026, with NEP and with the kind of programs that are offered in our country today, we have a wide choice, a bouquet of career options that are available to today's student population. And that also makes it a little bit more challenging. How do I make that career choice? Because there's so much available out there. How do I then make that particular choice, given I've not really experienced any of it yet? So here are some of the things that one should consider when making a career choice. The key things that you would, so you yourself would be able to gauge your intellect, not based on your marks, but generally your how well you're able to do in different areas of your life, whether it's academics, extracurricular activities. You can gauge where your intellect really lies. Your aptitude, your interest area. So again, as I said, naturally as we are growing up, we get exposed to many things, right? We get exposed to art, we get exposed to dance, drama, sports, and a core academics. So your interest, you over the years, you'll be able to identify that, yeah, these are some of the areas which really interest me. These are some of the areas which I absolutely dislike. These are some of the areas which are okay, but I'm not sure whether I really like it or not. Some of you may be very clear at an early age what you're passionate about. Some of you may, even after completing your 12th, may not have a very clear understanding of where your passion really lies. Or you may like multiple areas and it may become very challenging for you, therefore, to make that career choice. In that case, I would definitely urge students to undergo what we call as career counseling. And career counseling opportunities are available at various centers. There are career counselors that do this for you through a very scientific ways in which they apply certain tests, the aptitude test, the intelligence test, the tests that map your interest and passion and your personality as well. And the career counselor will be able to interlink all these factors and suggest to you various professions that might be suited to your interest, to your aptitude, and to your personality. So if as at the age of 17, 18, or even later on, or even earlier on, you are not very clear as to what your interest or where does your aptitude really lie, where does your passion really lie, then I would strongly encourage you to go for career counseling, where they will help you to identify your strengths, your passion, and will help you to map that with the particular professions that would suit you as an individual. Yeah. The other things that you could do apart from going for a career counseling is exploration. If you're a student currently in 11th or 12th, I would strongly again encourage you, or even if you're doing bachelor's right now and you want to choose your master's, I would suggest doing a lot of internships, observations in areas which you want to explore or you're unsure about. So find places, organizations, institutes where you're able to do that kind of observership and internship. And that experiential learning itself will give you a clue as to, is this something I really enjoy? Is this something which I'll be able to sustain over years? It's not a matter of 3 years, 2 years. It's a matter of your lifetime. So is this a journey I want to really undertake? Is this a garden I really want to tend? And I would definitely make my career choice based on that. Talk to experts. Whichever whichever profession you wish to enter, definitely talk to experienced professionals from that field, different professionals, different experts who can give you their perception of the field, which will help you to broaden your understanding of the field. Because sometimes we have a very narrow lens of a particular field. For example, when I entered into medicine, my vision was only, doctor treating the community. But I didn't see the hard work that was entailed in the process and the continued hard work that a doctor has to undergo even after they complete their MBBS or their MD. So, and there are various nuances of the field that you get to better understand when you talk to professionals who have worked in that field for several years. And that adds a different dimension to your understanding of the field, which helps you make a better choice. Yeah. So now I'm going to narrow down my focus to particularly talking about psychology as a career choice and what attributes do students need to have if they do wish to take up psychology. Again, when students, because now I'm in a teaching profession as well as the program head at Symbiosis Institute of Health Sciences for the Behavioral Health Science program. When students do come in for admissions, most of the time when I'm interacting with them, why they want to take up psychology, these are the common responses that I receive. That yes, I love counseling. I have myself had an experience with a mental health struggle, or my relative has had, I have seen my relative struggle with depression, and therefore I want to take up psychology. Or some students will say, I've been a mental health ambassador in my school, and I've been an advocate for mental health in my school, and therefore I want to take up psychology. Or some students will say, I appeared for NEET, I didn't become a doctor. I don't want to sit another 1 year to give NEET, and therefore I want to come into healthcare sector, and therefore I want to do psychology. So these are some of the common responses that I receive, and none of them is right or wrong. Each one is correct in their own place. And but what are the basic things that I would look for in a student who does take up a psychology program is basic. And this is the first point, is basic for any profession that you take: curiosity. Curiosity is the key to keep your interest kindle alive, that candle burning all the time. That even today, as a professional, even if I'm in now in middle age, I'm still very curious about my profession. I'm still curious to learn. I'm still curious to understand what are the recent advances in the field. I'm still curious to improvise on my own skill set. And that curiosity is very important for lifelong learning. When it comes to psychology, that curiosity needs to be about human behavior, because psychology is the scientific understanding of the mind and human behavior. Therefore, one needs to be curious all the time and be observant of people around you, observe human behavior and be curious about it. Another important skill set that is required is empathy, and people often confuse this term with sympathy. So the basic difference is, when you say empathy, it is the ability to place yourself in other person's shoes. That is, to be able to experience the emotion that the other person is experiencing. And that is a very key skill that is required. Because you're going to be dealing with human beings who are possibly struggling with their thoughts or their emotions. And sometimes, if we are especially used to being in a judgmental society, we if we are not empathic, we tend to patronize or be very dominant in that client therapy relationship, and that can be very detrimental to understanding human behavior in itself. The other skill that is attribute that is required of students, and that again is not particularly specific to psychology but is required for psychology students as well, is being analytical and being a critical thinker, right? So being able to ask questions, being able to whatever is, because it's a scientific field. Psychology, even though traditionally it has come under humanities and social sciences, it is actually a very scientific field. Today, we understand human behavior based on neurobiology. And one of the emerging trends I'm going to talk about is neuropsychology. So definitely having a good scientific evaluation of your own field is very important, to be asking a lot of questions, because research is an integral component of psychology. And unless you're analytical and you're able to critically evaluate what you're learning, you wouldn't be able to develop your research question. Patience and perseverance, yes, is very much key as to becoming a psychologist in whichever domain or specialization that you choose to do. When you're dealing with human beings and human behavior, you do need to have a lot of patience and perseverance to be able to see results or outcomes, or to see positive results, especially in the field of mental health, because most of the mental health issues do tend to be quite chronic. You do need to have that amount of patience and perseverance. Emotional maturity and self-awareness. I think, and this is something I always tell my newly inducted students, that unless you're first able to be your own therapist, you cannot become a good psychologist. So ability to evaluate your own self, ability to be aware of your own thoughts, emotions, and behavior, ability to rise above your own emotions and to have that community perspective in mind is key. So thinking beyond yourself, thinking about how my actions impact people around me, how my actions impact the society around me and the community at large is very important. That is what I mean by emotional maturity. That is being aware of my own emotions, being able to regulate them. And at the same time, how is my action contributing to people around me? And how does this then translate into my actions contributing to community at large is what I mean by emotional maturity. And of course, at that tender age, possibly you will not, it's a process, it's an evolving thing, emotional maturity. I don't expect students to have that emotional maturity at the age of 18, but that's something you should bear in mind when you're entering a program in psychology. Comfort with basic research and statistics. Often students who enter psychology feel that they just want to help clients or they want to help individuals overcome mental health issues. But psychology is not limited to that. Let me be very clear here. Psychology, as I mentioned, is a scientific discipline. And human behavior is so intriguing that there is still a large gap of knowledge that is still there in the field. And therefore, students should come in with a research bent of mind where they should ask, okay, this is known about, scientists have proven this fact, but is there something more to this? Why am I observing this phenomenon in community right now? Post pandemic, why, for example, why am I seeing that the attention span of students today is decreased as opposed to what it was in the earlier times? Okay, why is digital addiction growing so rapidly? I'm just throwing questions here. If you're able to have these questions in mind, then you will naturally be inclined towards research. So have this comfort. Don't get, many students get scared of research. And I will be honest, up until recently, till I joined Symbiosis, I was one of them. Because while pursuing medicine, in our third year, we were introduced to thesis. And thesis was just a tick box. We had to finish doing a thesis. Nobody really taught us research. Nobody really helped kindle that passion for research during our career. But look at the current programs. Look at our program at Symbiosis. We are teaching you research right from your very early years. In your first semester, we are getting guest faculty from international schools to teach you research. And therefore, naturally, you will develop that interest in research as you're pursuing your career. Once you're learning more about it, you'll naturally develop and create your own research proposals. And that's a beauty. Once you start doing research, it's almost like an addiction where you now want to do more and more and bridge those gaps of knowledge which you find are existing within the current literature. And yes, you do require reading and writing skills. There are n number of textbooks in psychology, and beyond textbooks, there are journals, there's scientific literature, there are books, both fictional, non-fictional, even movies, media are a source of learning about human behavior. So having good reading, writing, analytical skills, all of that is very important to become a holistic individual studying psychology. So today's career prospects, we are not just focusing on theoretical knowledge, we are focusing on building knowledge along with skills and attitudes, which are going to help you become a professional that is suited for the 21st century, right? So I hope you're all with me here, and I hope that I'm not boring you a lot. But I guess that I'm speaking some of it from my own experience and a lot from my experience working as a faculty here, as well as from being a professional myself, and some of it that I've come across through literature. So once you've chosen the field of psychology, the next question that immediately comes to a student's mind is, okay, now I'm done my basic degree in psychology. Now I want to pursue my master's. So what specialization do I choose? And many a times, again, I have seen in the field of psychology, again, at undergraduate level itself, when students come for admissions, they say, I want to become a clinical psychologist. Okay, they will say, I want to be, most of them want to become either a clinical psychologist, or nowadays I see a lot of interest towards forensic psychology that is coming up. But let me tell you that there is such a diverse range of specializations that are available today that you should definitely look at it and have some exposure to these fields before you make the final choice of choosing a particular niche area in psychology. Uh, and thankfully, in our program, in the BSc program that we are currently offering, we do offer these specializations, and we do offer you a glimpse of all these specializations that I'm going to be shortly talking about during an undergraduate degree itself, with experiential learning component attached to these courses, so that you are able to, once you come out of your graduation, you are able to make that informed choice as to what specialization I need to make. So in no specific order of preference, I'm going to start with the different specializations and give you a glimpse of what is within that program. What work settings would you be working in once you become a particular specialized psychologist? What student attributes would be needed to become one? And what a final academic degree wise, what is it that you would need to do? Right. So coming to the most popular program in India is clinical psychology. So what does a clinical psychologist do? So clinical psychologist does work in the clinical domain of mental health, which means they do work to diagnose and assess mental illness, particularly, and they also learn through their curriculum uh, psychotherapies for mental health disorders or mental illness. So because they're working in the area of illness, they would be more into curative practice, which would be more in settings like hospitals, clinics or private clinics or rehab centers. Uh, and what would be the student? Because you're working in a clinically unwell population, you would need to have a high emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize your own emotions, the ability to recognize and regulate your emotions, ability to empathize with the other individual with good communication skills, and that actually helps you with your motivation and leadership as well. So high emotional intelligence is required, and ability to sit with distress. Mental illnesses are often chronic conditions which do not have a quick fix. So ability to, again, the patient's perseverance part of it is more tested here when you're a clinical psychologist. And you do require ethical sensitivity. You have to be prepared that some of your clients will not improve. So that ability to sit with frustration, ability to be tolerant to the distress itself is very important. And sometimes it may entail long-term training, because see, once your education pathways usually will give you the knowledge base. The skill set is something you're going to develop during your training as well as after. And that skill set acquisition will continue lifelong. As a psychiatrist, I can never say I'm fully skilled. Something that is, because the individuals that you see, the clients that you see are going to be unique. There will be no one client that will be the same as the other. And therefore, it's a lifelong learning. So if you're a student who says, yes, I want to work deeply with individuals and mental health concerns like depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, substance use disorders, then this is the profession for me. And usually you would have to pursue a master's in clinical psychology. Currently, the MPhil is being phased out by RCI. And there is a MPsych that RCI is offering for you to get registered under the Rehab Council of India. Coming to the next specialization, which is counseling psychology. So again, this is what I see, that if I'm not able to get into clinical psychology, I'll take up counseling psychology. And what do counseling psychologists do? So that's a little less intense, individuals with less intense mental health concerns. So usually who are dealing with stress arising from life transitions, relationships, careers, academics. Yeah. And or are having generally feeling distressed, or just want to come in to understand, you know, what in terms of what career choices also they want to make, they can come to a counseling psychologist as well. So usually the counseling psychologist would work in colleges, schools, NGOs, private practice, or wellness centers as well. Today we find the wellness industry booming, and we do have counseling psychologists who are employed there as well. So what would be some of the skill sets that would be required is, again, listening skills, ability to, when I say listening, I'm talking about active listening, that is listening to understand and not listening to react. The person needs to be really warm, non-judgmental, again, because you will have a wide clientele here, a much more wider, so the prevalence of mental illness is possibly much less as opposed to the prevalence of distress, right? So you will have a large community to deal with, and therefore you will have to have that warmth within you, that patience within you to deal with diverse kinds of problems. And you will have to have the interest in the promotive preventive aspects rather than more a curative approach. And again, it's for individuals who say that, okay, I want to help people cope, grow, and make sense of life. Then that's the profession I would be going to. So I'm trying to simplify it and put it in the students' world to make more sense of these fields to help you make that informed choice. And usually there's a counseling psychology specialization that a program would offer that will entail you to work. So much more wider career options, a much more wider job opportunities for a counseling psychologist as opposed to a clinical psychologist, much more satisfying work in the community that you can do as a counseling psychologist. So here at Symbiosis Institute of Health Sciences, we are offering a master's in behavioral health sciences with two specializations, one in counseling psychology and the other one is in health psychology, which I will be shortly talking about. So counseling psychology is do not rate it as less than clinical. It's actually a much more satisfying job prospect, much more satisfying career, because it's allowing you to deal with a much wider population, and any and every person actually at some stage would require a counseling psychologist. Because tell me one individual who does not go through a life transition or a relationship issue or an academic stress, and I think majority of the population does need counseling psychologists. Coming to the next one, this is another one which is quite popular, organizational or industrial psychology. And this is more to do with employee well-being, involved in recruitment. So HR professionals also need to have a good background of organizational or industrial psychology. Individuals who have good leadership skills, who are into training employees and building a healthy and safe workplace culture would be what their job would entail. So these after pursuing your organizational or industrial psychology, you would work in corporates or HR consultancy, or you can also work in startups. And what would be some of the student attributes? You would need to have interest in systems, as organizations are work on certain systems, and you would need to have interest in people, employees. You would need to be good with your interpersonal skills. That goes without saying actually in every field, but more so when you're working in an organization where you're working with employees, you would need to have those interpersonal skills. You would have to have some comfort with data, surveys, and assessments. So you'd probably, in your curriculum, there would be some courses related to human resource management and data analysis as well. And this would be more suited where I don't want to become a hardcore clinician, but I want to work in corporates and I want to work for organizations. Then this is a career that I should be opting for. Right. Having said that, all of these professionals can also become academicians. They can become faculty for psychology programs if you choose not to enter any of these traditional work settings, you can always choose to become a teacher in that particular domain. And I'm happy to share that we have a diverse range of faculty here as well. In fact, I can see Dr. Shruti, who's joined here for the webinar. She herself comes from the industrial organizational domain, and she's taught in very reputed institutes like the IITs and IIMs. And we are very fortunate to have her within our team as a faculty teaching the human resource management, which is a minor in our current BSc program.
Thanks, ma'am.
The next one, which is very interesting, is school psychology, and I don't see many institutes offering this specialization, but this is actually a much required specialization actually. Many of the counseling psychologists do end up working, and many of the counseling psychology programs cover a lot of curriculum related to school psychology as well. And in fact, in our curriculum as well, we are covering the school psychology within our curriculum itself. But this is an interesting field, a very needed field, I would say, where, because I firmly believe that when it comes to mental health, early identification and intervention is the key. And school age is where you need to identify problems and intervene. And school setups is where you need to promote mental health and be an advocate there. So what do school psychologists do? They do, apart from looking at identifying issues, they also play a very important role in being advocates there in the schools for teacher training and for ensuring that inclusivity is implemented in their schools. So they look at including neurodiverse children or including gender in terms of school education. And of course, neurodiversity is one big area, neurodevelopmental disorders. So working with children with autism, with learning disability, ADHD, and children with behavioral issues. And they would traditionally be working in schools, educational institutes, higher educational institutes. At Symbiosis, I think we are one of the very few universities in higher education where we have a Symbiosis Center for Emotional Well-being, where we have a robust setup of psychiatrists and psychologists who work for the mental health of students, faculty, and staff, all the stakeholders. And that's what a school counselor would do, would not just work for the mental health of school children, but would also look after the mental health of teachers and the other staff that are working in that educational institute. So yes, you primarily have to enjoy working with children and adolescents, and that's a different developmental age group. So that does have different needs, and you have to be absolutely sure you enjoy working with that age group. And it does require a lot of patience because children often cannot express themselves through words, and you may need to try different methodologies in your interventions to be able to get information from them, to be able to understand what's going on, and may need to talk to different stakeholders to do that comprehensive assessment. So it is a very tedious process. It does take a lot of your energy and time, and therefore you have to have passion and interest. Yeah, and you have to have that connection with children of different age groups as well. So if you're someone who thinks, yes, I can connect with children, I love working with children and educators, then this is the field meant for you. Coming to this very popular field of forensic psychology, and now with Netflix showing so many of this crime series and thrillers, and many students, I often feel that students who want to take up, they do have this special interest in crime series, and they have read a lot of books on these thriller books as well, which naturally then leads them to choose this as a professional choice. So what do forensic psychologists do? Yes, they do work with criminal behavior. They do legal assessments. So they do work in court settings, and they also work for victim support. So they could work in prisons, they could work in courts, they could work with the legal system, they could work in NGOs that particularly work for rights of people. And yeah, what would you be required as a student? first of all, your interest in law and justice has to be there. I mean, just having the interest in understanding criminals is not enough. You definitely need to have a very good understanding of law and justice. Your own ethics has to be in place, and you have to be dealing with intense individuals can be a very different experience and quite draining. So you have to be very resilient to be working with people from certain backgrounds. And yeah, so just having that interest in crime series is not enough, is what I want to highlight here. But the reality is that while it's becoming a popular choice, unfortunately, there are very few jobs. In fact, on our advisory board here at Symbiosis, we have one of the prominent the HODs of the Forensic Psychiatry Department from NIMHANS, the National Institute of Mental Health and Neuropsychiatry, situated in Bangalore. And when we launched our program and we were deciding the specializations, we did take his advice. And I did tell him that a lot of students want to take up forensic psychology. So should we introduce that as a specialization? So he said, no, 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 don't go for it, because there are no jobs rather. Very few jobs currently in Indian setup, unless you want to go abroad and study. But then again, you have to study the legal system there. So it probably would be better to do the forensic psychology post-graduation abroad than doing it in our own country, as the job prospects are still few. There is high competition, as I said, because not many institutes are offering it as a specialization, and today many students are opting for this specialization. It is high competition, and it is one of the psychologist profession which is really, really emotionally intense. Coming to the another specialization which is very dear to me, being a doctor, and I've worked in the healthcare sector for so many years, I see the need for health psychologists. I see that this is an urgent need in our country, especially where non-communicable diseases are epidemic in our country, with diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and mental illnesses being the predominant cause of mortality and morbidity and concerns which are affecting the quality of life and the longevity in our country. So definitely health psychologists can make a difference here, and that's what's required rather. And I'm a strong advocate of that, where I do feel that behavior modification, lifestyle changes go a long way in preventing non-communicable diseases from emerging, from creating and also improving quality of life and increasing the happiness index amongst people. I think health psychologists can play a major role in doing all of this. Yes, they will work in healthcare sector, and this is again for individuals who wanted to become a doctor but couldn't be one. I think this job offers you a much better, I would say much better job than a doctor. Doctor looks at only curing people. Here you're looking at transforming individuals to become better versions of themselves and improvising not just individuals, making a difference in their health, making a difference to their family, and making a difference to the society at large. So you can work in public health. Public health is a very emerging field in our country. And today what is required is interventions at public health level, and working with NGOs and on different kinds of way. There are various projects that the government also launches. We have the Ayushman Bharat, and we have so many other schemes for people for better health. But I think a lot of work needs to go in, health psychology domain, where behavior modification becomes a key in any of these interventions or any of the schemes that the government is launching. So yes, definitely you need to have interest in health and medicine, and if you're oriented to behavior change, because that's the key to health, whether it's physical health or emotional health, social health. I think behavior is the prime foundation of that, any of that. And you need to have a collaborative mindset. So somebody who's able to work easily in teams, who is a team player, because here you would work with public policy makers, you would be working with NGOs, you would be working with community stakeholders, and therefore a collaborative approach would be something that you would have to bear in mind. Another field that is also a very popular specialization abroad, and I have a couple of psychologists in SKU who have done their specialization in developmental psychology from the UK. And it essentially what they study is human development across the lifespan, right from childhood till old age. And that's interesting because, as I said, every life stage has its own challenges, uh, brings about new concerns, and right from the biological to social changes in that specific age group, and how that translates into challenges within the family or within the social structure, is something that you would study during this course. So you would possibly, if you do a developmental psychology course, you can even work in schools, colleges, but you're more likely to work in policies. You're more likely to work with research institutes and academia, or even NGOs. But as a developmental psychologist, actually you can work in a specific age group with a specific age group population if you choose to, or you could work in a wider domain as mentioned here. So obviously you need to have curiosity about human growth. You definitely need to have a research bent of mind, and your observation skills need to be very, very good. Uh, so if you're someone who says, "Oh, I'm very curious about how people change over time," then I would possibly be inclined to take up this specialization. Yeah, so I'm possibly not, I mean, again, this is not an exhaustive list. There are possibly many more specializations that are available. If you look up the programs in psychology, you will find. But I've given you a broad spectrum of fields that are currently available. Uh, and I will take you to the emerging trends as well, emerging fields, which are offered as specializations in our program. So sports psychology is a very upcoming field. In fact, we do currently in one of our semesters, in semester 8, I think we have the sports psychology course going on, and we have a sports psychologist coming in and teaching this course. And in fact, we are planning them to take them for a field trip to the performance lab in Balewadi Stadium, to give them that experiential learning and the practical exposure to the field. So a sports psychologist is would look at essentially performance enhancement in athletes or sports people, and would be working to enhance motivation, working on the focus, which is very much required in any sports field, and would also be from an injury recovery point of view. Also, again, mental strength is most important, right? That mental endurance, mental stamina, mental resilience is what takes to become the best sports person. And so as a sports psychologist, I myself need to have a lot of energy. I need to have a performance mindset. And again, I need to be able to work in teams. Uh, uh, Neuropsych, again, this is a very intriguing branch. Myself very fascinated by this branch. If I had not become a psychiatrist, I'd probably take up neuropsych. I do teach biological determinants of mental health in our program. And brain is something that fascinates me. I think human brain is so unique, and the evolution of our human brain is so interesting to study. And how it contributes to our behavior is absolutely fascinates me. So if that's something which fascinates you as well, then you should take up neuropsych, because this is a very emerging field. A lot of Indian institutes too are coming up with good labs to take up a lot of research in this field. But abroad, there is a huge scope for neuropsychology, and they're very evolved laboratories and great research personnel that can assist you with your masters. And yeah, I think it's a great field to be in. But again, I mean, if you're somebody who wants to be in the research domain, particularly or academia, then this is the work setting that you're possibly working in, is possibly academia or research. If you're somebody who wants to work in the community, then this is possibly not the field. Another emerging field, and I see a lot of people talking about, is positive psychology, right? And one misunderstanding in positive psychology is that I just need to know the wellness, quotient of it. I don't need to understand core psychology, or any foundation in psychology is not required. I just need to study positive psychology as if something distinct from psychology. So no, so it's our human mind, our behavior, it's all on a spectrum, right? Our thoughts, emotions, everything is on a spectrum. So positive psychology is a scientific study again of the positive, the human strengths, uh, and but for that also you need to have a core foundational understanding of the entire field of psychology. So it's not like you're only going to study the positive aspects. And usually people who've done their specialization in this field would work in corporate wellness or in coaching. And that's currently a very lucrative field. A lot of corporates are having these wellness initiatives, and a lot of life coaches also I see are mushrooming across the country. But we need somebody who comes in with good educational background, who has done qualified, who has the right qualifications to practice this. Otherwise, doing these certificate courses or some bridge courses, or you yourself haven't undergone coaching and then becoming a life coach, is not something I would encourage any of the students to do. Because unless you have a comprehensive understanding, and that's what I keep telling even in my team meetings to my psychologist colleagues as well, that irrespective of whichever domain you choose to do your specialization in, having your foundations in psychology strong is very, very important. Having the whole understanding of the spectrum of mental health is very, very important, whichever specialization you choose to do. So no short courses. That's my short answer. Digital mental health. Of course, in this techno-savvy world and in the current age of AI, how can we keep digitization away from mental health? With online therapy, mental health apps, and AI-based screening tools being so popular, and being the buzzword today, I think this is a very evolving field. And I think here you see the interdisciplinarity of it, where it's not just psychology, or it's humanities, social science with engineering, with technology, with biology, right? So you're integrating a lot of disciplines to become a digital mental health expert. I think it's a fascinating and a much needed field. But you need to be comfortable with technology yourself. Again, ethics plays an important role. How I can make all of these apps safe, where confidentiality is maintained and where ethics are not compromised, and also adaptable, because technology is so fast evolving that I need to be adaptable and flexible, and need to be aware of the recent advances and adapt myself to the current changes as well. And another field which is again very dear to me is community mental health. I've always dreamt of making a difference in the community. I think I came to Symbiosis also with this objective, that educational institutes have the power to reach out to a community much better than working in an individual space, which is why I did not take a private practice, because I always felt that more than individual work, if you can create interventions that are going to benefit the larger community, it will automatically have an impact on individuals as well. So community mental health is if you're really passionate about and sensitive about social issues, then, and if you're ready to go out into the field and work, then this is the area for you, where you can actually help develop large-scale interventions. You can actually influence policies at national level. Again, happy to share here that we are collaborating with a research NGO, Sangat, which I'm sure many of our students must be aware of. Some of our students have actually worked. We had recently done a project with them on a peer support intervention for adolescents suffering from mild to moderate depression and anxiety in one of the rural schools in the vicinity of Symbiosis. So that was a very, very satisfying, rewarding experience for the students, where they not only built skills, but they could make a difference to the community. And that experience, I'm sure, is going to take them a long way in keeping up their motivation and passion towards this field of psychology. Also, we are doing a lot of community outreach programs via Symbiosis. We have a community outreach program and extension department specifically that looks at implementing, interventions in the larger community, especially in the rural sector. And we are currently also in the process of doing another substance use project in the Pune district. So students get, because we are offering community mental health as a minor in our current undergraduate degree program, students get to work on all of these projects, and that's a great field experience that they get, which cannot replace, or there is no theory that can ever explain a student what community mental health means, because unless you've been on the field and experienced it, you can never become a community mental health expert. Okay, so having gone through all of this, I'm now going to kind of summarize what I've just spoken about. So what is it then at the end of the day that students should be focusing on? First of all, I see again this with when I'm teaching, students are very curious to know about marks, about exams, because our education system unfortunately has emphasized marks and grades, and exams have been, highlighted much more in our academic journey, which therefore I don't blame the students here. Our system is to be blamed for this. But let me tell you, in higher education, it's not about marks. It's about, your focus should be on understanding the concepts, because if your concepts are clear, your foundation is good, and a good building, a strong building will always have a good foundation. So no matter which height you reach, if your foundation is weak, your building will collapse. So your foundation has to be absolutely strong. They should focus on research and also build their skills in statistics, something I really regret not having. But I'm sure my colleagues here at my faculty colleagues are very supportive, and they fill in all my knowledge gaps with their expertise. You should focus on doing observerships and internships, which is integral to our curriculum here at Symbiosis. And ability to be self-aware is, I think that's, again, I would say this is required for every individual, but especially those who are entering a undergraduate degree program in psychology definitely need to have self-awareness and supervision. Ultimately, you need to ask yourself this question: do I enjoy people, uh, working with people? Do I enjoy research? Do I enjoy working with systems, or do I enjoy therapy? And these questions you will not be able to answer before going through a psychology program. I think through the journey of your 3 years, 4 years program, you will be able to unfold and unravel and understand yourself better, and be able to answer these. You should be able to answer this question at the end of your bachelor's degree. So if your goal is you want to be a therapist, then clinical psychology. If you want to work in the corporate, then organizational psychology. If you want to work in the healthcare sector or health, then health psychology. If you want to work in child focused areas, then you need to possibly do school psychology. This is just a broad summary of what I just spoke about. And now coming to the master's level, after doing master's also, what is it that I have that I can do? So recently the RCI has come up with their MPsych course, and I think MPhil is being phased out. I think probably this is the last batch doing MPhil. I don't think anybody can gain entry into MPhil program hereafter. There is also a provision of a PhD program with RCI, I think. But otherwise, you can enter workforce. Like after masters, if you do not want to pursue education, you can absolutely work in whichever work settings I spoke of for the different specializations that we just went through. Or you could do, like if you want to become a if you want to become a therapist, I would also suggest do certifications after doing your masters in REBT, CBT, whichever particular therapeutic practice you want to become an expert in. Definitely do from reputed, recognized institutes, get your certifications. Today, Indian knowledge systems is also evolving and emerging. Do look at Indian psychological practices as well. And that's something, a niche area that you can develop your expertise in, but definitely get your additional qualifications in those areas. Or you could do fellowships and international certifications. I mean, as I said, career is a lifelong journey. Does not mean if you're doing a job, you have to stop your journey of learning. You can, while you're working, also pursue these certifications, and you can, the world is, today we are living in a globalized world. So there are no national boundaries. You can travel, you can go explore, and that's how actually you grow as an individual as well. It's not just about degrees and qualifications that you have. It's about how much life experience and how much world experience do you have that actually helps you in becoming a successful professional. So some myths that I would like to bust here is that psychology is not just therapy, it's much beyond, as we've gone through so many fields, so much wider, wider applications. Uh, the fact that marks only decide career, no, 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 not in today's world. If you look at the eligibility for a program, it's 50% marks in your grade 12. So anybody can practically choose this career. One degree fits all, no, not at all. So it is very individual, your personality, your aptitude, all of that, would decide what degree you want to do. And online certificates can replace core degrees. An absolute myth, as is the field of psychology is vast. There are so many things that you need to study while you're pursuing psychology, that no certificate course can give you that kind of a in-depth understanding. And if you really want to be a good professional, in-depth knowledge is the foundation. Again, skills and attitudes, of course, you need, that is built on the knowledge base, but knowledge is non-replaceable, and that cannot happen over a certificate course alone. So psychology is not just a degree, it's a profession, professional identity. And early clarity will save years of confusion, burnout, and regret, is how I would like to sum it up and end. So thank you. And I hope I've not created more confusion, but I've been able to sort of give you clarity and a glimpse of what are the areas where you would look like. Currently at Symbiosis, we are offering the bachelor's degree in behavioral health science, but we are soon likely to change it as per the NCHP guidelines, the National Commission of Allied Health Professions Act, which was passed in 2021, which is now being implemented. And there is a commission, and our psychology, other than clinical psychologists, all other psychology specializations will be registered under this commission. And I would like to also share that, in fact, next week we are having another conference here where we are actually having the chairperson of this commission come here as the chief guest. And we are going to be interacting with her very closely to see how, of course, we are going to implement the exact curriculum that NCHPA has put up on their website. So our program is soon going to be applied psychology and behavioral health, with the degree going to be B-Psych as per the NCHP, which will allow our students to get licensed and thereby practice and not have problems with working in different settings. Because I'm sure that once this, I mean, now that it is implemented, no workplace will accept individuals who don't have license, who are not a licensed psychologist, right? So it's very important that when students are choosing their career options, they look at degrees where they're able to get their degree licensed, or where they're able to get themselves license to practice as a psychologist. So I think I'd like to stop here and open it up for questions. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or you can put your questions in the chat box, and I'll be more than happy. And my colleagues are here as well. My faculty is here who's joined along with me. So if there are any questions that I'm not able to answer, I'm sure they will assist me with that.
I think the group is trying to consolidate all the information that came their way. I think questions will pop up. Maybe later you can reach out to us on the group that we have created for, giving you the webinar details. If that's something that you need, we're always available there. Uh, Otherwise, thank you for this insightful session, ma'am. Before we close down, I'd like to invite the participants to turn on their camera so that we can take a picture for the session. Yes, we have the picture. Anything else? If anybody else wants to share, we are open to that. Otherwise, we can wind it up. Right? Yes.
Thank you, Sharvi, Teresa, for helping me with this, and also for the link. And thank you, Shruti and Chaya, for patiently hearing me. And our students who have joined here, Sakshi and Lokya, I could see, and Shreya also. So despite being in our program, they've joined. So that's nice. Thank you.
All right. I think that's the webinar for this week. We'll see you next week, possibly.